Hi, Aaron. It's a great pleasure to meet you here
Bom dia,
personally.
Carlos.
Great to meet you personally. Your books have really inspired us at Logcomex in building a little bit of our story, and it's very nice to finally meet you personally. Excited to be here. Thank you for coming to our second edition of Comex Tech Forum.
Yeah, muito obrigado. Actually, I love visiting Brazil. I said primarily for the people, especially in Sao Paulo. It's just talk about Sao Paulo as called the land of buildings. And actually, I would be happier. I got to find out if they have any escape rooms here in English.
I'm not sure.
I
They
don't
might.
know, but
They might.
but,
I'm sure they have escape rooms,
if
but
they
I'm not sure in
if they
English.
have any in English, then I have an extra reason besides the people to visit Sao Paulo. But love the people here.
Yeah, you've been here to Brazil quite a couple times already, right?
Yeah, a bunch. This year, actually, though it's my record, I'll have 5 visits, different talks of different reasons. Usually, a lot of years it's like 1 or 2, talks. But this year, for some reason, a lot.
And you have your Brazil routine you mentioned, right?
I do. We were just talking. So the jet lag. I'm coming in actually from Scotland, so it's always a long trip. Usually, there's some connection through Frankfurt or London, and Amsterdam, and then a long flight from there. But I always, when I get here to Brazil, I love in the morning, get up, have some coffee, pão de queijo, papaya, like especially the papaya. It's just harder to get good ones in other places. Go to the gym, hotel gym, and then, we'll see. After that, maybe lie in the bed, just kind of zone out with jet lag for a bit,
Yeah, it's important.
like this morning.
So, from your experiences in Brazil and just Latin America in general, how would you say the markets are different or sales are different in Latin American countries compared to more mature countries like the US or Europe?
Yeah, I'll give you my impression. I don't sell in Latin America, although I have a team, at the Receita Prevísivel team that works here. But one thing, I'll start with what I noticed personally. Like when I come here, or if there's other events, there's definitely a lot more enthusiasm and excitement around growth, business, entrepreneurship, tech, and part of that sales and marketing. And that's partly, I don't know how much that's the Brazilian just culture, because people are so much more friendly here. I say it's fotos, abrazos. But anyway, it's a lot more exciting. I get a lot more excitement for people here that hunger to learn compared to Europe or United States, where people are more jaded. Like, hey, how you doing? A lot more quiet. So again, I feel like there's definitely more enthusiasm here. In terms of like techniques in the culture, the United States and the UK are very, very far more noisy in terms of content, all the messaging platforms, all the things that people are supposed to do, amount of just stuff, apps, everything. So everyone's swimming in even more noise. I mean, there's still a lot in Brazil, but even more noise. Because they tend to lead, the United States tends to lead the pack with technology, which then means it leads with new types of media, which means it leads with noise and overwhelm. No coincidence that there's also incredibly rising levels of anxiety in the United States. So I'm not saying it's a good thing, but it's not quite the same here in Brazil yet. So outside the States, like what you'll find works in places like Brazil or even Europe, and tend to be things like can be more outbound techniques that don't work in the States might work here still, or marketing techniques. I don't have to give you like a specific example, but techniques will work. In a lot of places in Brazil, there's still a lot more conservative culture around management and sales. So, every country has the people and companies that tend to be slower to adopt new approaches, and Brazil is no exception. So it's still it can be hard to find a manager or a sales manager, that kind of manager who is really willing and able to adapt to kind of new approaches with sales, or now, could be really anything related to AI, and like really ready to embrace a whole bunch of new experiments and ways of working with people, ways of applying and being more creative and in entrepreneurial and attacking things. So I think that's still not as common as you can find in like the States, UK.
Yeah, it's a very interesting culture in Brazil. There's a lot of small entrepreneurship, like people that are really grinding and starting things. And sales is very cultural. Like everyone's selling all the time. It's very interesting to see this, and very relationship building as well. I think the process of sales is really relationship building, right?
Yeah, I think that's something that would have slowed Brazil down in the sales world over. I'll stick to the United States because I grew up there. I don't
Yep.
live there now, and there's reasons why I moved out, not political reasons. Um, we can come back to that. So basically, we have so many kids,
Yeah,
but
you're at 10 kids now,
10
right?
kids now. Yeah,
It's quite a challenge.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, only it was the first 9 were the hardest. Let's say.
I guess.
But I would say, again, this is a gross generalization, is that I think that the United States has been able to be so economically successful so fast for lots of reasons. But one of them, who knows, is that people just don't care about each other as much there.
Yeah.
There's just not that same relationship unless you use it to get something. That's just, again, very broad generalization. Part of that also not only helps people kind of like work, they have less fear about making money. And trust me, there's lots of people who have that, but there's even more that don't. And people are more willing to move away from family and friends just to pursue job opportunities and career. Now, but I think, again, I have no proof, but I can see, though, for the future that actually might help Brazil because people care about each other more here. And I think that actually will lead to more resilience and opportunities in the future, because with all the changes in the world, one of the things that will help companies and teams and families get through, I think the amount of changes and chaos will increase, is relationships. Like, you can count on your team because you don't know what's coming. Right? We had a pandemic, and then we have cost of living crisis, and there'll be something else, and there's always like some other thing around the corner. So you don't know what's coming, but you're like, can I count on my team? Can my customers count on me, and vice versa? Like, those kinds of relationships with people to people and brand to people, I think will actually serve Brazil better for the future than like the United States.
Yeah. Sounds like hopeful future, I guess, the whole relationship building.
Yeah, I mean, and by the way, I do my keynote later. It's one of the key points. One of the new parts
Cool.
I'm expanding with you.
Yeah, because I think you really progressed in your books, right? You started with more of the growth, and then you moved on to retention, expansion, and relationship. So a more nuanced view of sales. What started very transactional, more to relationship building.
Yep.
How was this progression in your books? Like, what really motivated you to write your follow-up books after Predictable, right? Really?
It's complicated. I always, I actually wrote the Predictable Revenue book just because I felt like I wanted to write a book. And then once that was out and we started, I had a business around it, and I had a bunch of kids. It's like, okay, I got to write another book, a follow-up. So the Hypercrescimento book, or From Impossible to Inevitable in English, I think that was prodded. It was motivated by, need to grow the business. And I enjoy, like, I'm a book person. I feel like the word author, besides father, but author would fit me better than, not an entrepreneur or whatever. So I'm a book person at heart. I love books, love writing books, and sometimes think about coaching people on them. So I put a lot of love and attention into the From Impossible to Inevitable book, but then I was burned out for a few years. And again,
For writing a second book?
yeah,
For that project?
but also at the same time I had, I don't know how many babies, and maybe 5 kids only 5 at that point.
Okay.
4 or 5, 6.
Pretty easy still, right?
I know, warm up.
Yeah.
I was just burned out in a lot of levels. So, but I don't want to write the same stuff over and over again, right? I'm not going to do another sales book. That's just not me. So even is it easier I stick to Hypercrescimento or From Impossible to Inevitable? That book was really aimed to be a growth book for executives. So aimed to be a very different book that built on the Predictable Revenue. Now, the next books I'm working on, they're definitely even more different.
How so?
Well, I'll give you 2 examples. So one is a book I'm doing with someone else. His idea, I thought, oh, that's a great idea. He needs help doing the book, though, but it's called Income Operating System. And actually, Camila Ferrani is one of the co-authors. She's here today, isn't she?
Yeah, she was here in the morning.
Okay. So that's really just helping. It's like there's so much biased and unhelpful financial advice out there, and conflicting.
Yeah.
But that's the nature of the world. I think that we at least for me, I'll speak for myself. He had this book idea because he, wants to start a business, make money around it. But like, this idea is great. It's just the idea that there's really three main ways to make money: kind of earning like a job, part-time, full-time, or freelancing, like consulting or gigging, or investing.
Yeah.
And there's some flavors like business, but and helping people see, hey, there's these pros and cons to each. And because I think a lot of older people are scared to start a business or start freelancing because it's not secure. A lot of younger people are scared to get a job because it is too predictable. And the reality is, jobs are a great way to have regular income and benefits and get paid to learn. Freelancing, a great way to potentially create some more upside and learn skill. Like, they're all great, but how do you find your right mix that's a good fit for you where you are in your career? Just trying to have a more helpful, unbiased look. So it's really for consumers, individuals. How do you make more money? And it's not quick. It's not quick. It's, you have to be prepared to think over years, 5 years, 10 years. I don't know. So that's one type of book. But, the one that's actually closer that I'm writing right now is called Eat Shit and Grow. What's the term in Brazil? A friend of mine said swallow frogs. Is that a...
No, we have the eat shit, which is comendo merda.
Yeah. And there's another term which is like swallow the frog.
Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of like fail. And so after, 10 years or longer, like getting smacked in the face, having a big family, so going from 0 to 10 children and having to support everyone financially, because I made a little money at Salesforce.com, but I always had to keep working to pay all the bills.
Yeah.
And just all the crazy, it's just interesting, different stories that I think people wouldn't run into in their day to day. And I'll give you one example. If people ask me, like, how did you make money? Because I made a lot of money, right? More than, $10 million through the books and such. And like, well, I had lots of kids. Then I had to. It was no question. So just trying to give people a bit of a different lens on, especially like kids, lots of kids.
They're a big driver there, right?
Yeah. And also the part of that is the consequence of being pushed to the wall, like have just physically, physical energy, emotionally, financially, and getting through that over 10 years. I'm still am, but it's getting easier. The youngest is now 7.5. So.
And how did you channel this energy into your books? Tell me a little bit more of that.
I'm still working on that because it's very hard to write.
Yeah.
We had kids at home. Actually, the last 2 weeks is the first time we've ever had all the house is empty during the day because all the kids are at school, the same school. And so I'm still figuring that out. What only worked the last couple of years is going on retreat.
Okay.
And so
for writing, you mean?
Writing retreats, yeah. And actually, it's something I do want to do in the future is organize small writing retreats with people who are working on starting with business books. And that's a thing. Like I feel I like doing it, helping people with it, confident. In fact, I want to continue writing. In fact, at some point, write fiction. And that's still a very challenging thing for me. It's a whole very different approach than writing nonfiction. But for me, as I kind of move off from working in the day-to-day of sales consulting and sales training, right, we have the business here, but I kind of speak, advise, I help, but I'm not working with clients. And I want to do something new, so I still need to make money to support the family. I need work because something I want to do, right? And books is something I really like working with them. So
keeps you motivated.
Yeah, and I'm learning, working with people, like partnering, right? Love partnering with Thiago Muniz here, the Receita Prevísivel. I got this other book partner, other business partners that works well for me. Writing new books, but over time. I'm not good about posting socially, even writing newsletters, but books. I can do books. I like books. I love books. And I'm great about spotting people who have a book idea and helping them tune that and turn it into one. So again, I'm kind of sussing out almost my ikigai. What can I do that I like to do, the kind of work that I like to do it every day, and still
make money
and have good partners and a team and so on.
That sense of purpose as well, I guess.
Yep. So, and I don't think I could have done, I'm 52. And is it something I could have done when I was younger? I don't know. But I feel like now everything's kind of coming together in a good way, even if this theme of it's taking me years. I've been working on this for 3 years already, and it might take another year or three. Who knows? But slowly but surely,
Yeah.
we're chipping at it.
And you said you're a book person, right? How are you working on getting your kids to be book people as well, right? I think that's a big challenge I suffer with, at least
Yeah.
in this modern world. Kids don't really like to read that much anymore. Like,
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna go the way, like, even TV, like YouTube is gonna be, and TikTok, short form video is going to be more dominant in the future. Doesn't really, I'm not a big fan of it. I grew up in a different time, right?
yeah,
So we as much as we can with the kids, read to them every night. They do some at school. Some of the kids just love books and some don't. I don't know. The thing with 10 kids, you can
you have a little
lead a
bit
horse
of
to water, but you can't make them drink. You just do your best and realize, hey, there's other things they love too. Like books. I love books, but they're not for everybody in the same way they're for me. But I do want to, as I start to do more fiction, and again, I don't know how I'm going to do it. I know I want to write some, but I don't have confidence. I have confidence at some point I'll figure it out, but I don't right now have confidence in doing it. I want to learn how to enjoy fiction, like world building. I'm going to kind of rope some of my kids in for that, to talk to them about ideas, and so I'll involve them in that a bit more too. But, I think the reading thing, just trying to have like a bedtime, a great bedtime routine is one of the best ways. My wife is really good. She pulls out the Jane Austen series, like kid version, and then she'll read the books to them because they're not that long, and then watch the movie with them. So it's kind of really helping them embrace the full story, not just the book. It starts with the book.
cool. And I guess moving a little bit into future, AI, I guess, is a bit buzzword of the moment, right? I think AI is kind of changing pretty much everything. Everyone's trying to adapt, understand, and
Who knows, man?
sales, writing. I think. Are you using AI for writing at all,
I
or
don't.
ideation at least?
Yeah, maybe. I haven't figured out. I don't write that often yet. I'm still stumbling my way to figure out how to do that. Every time I do a book, it's a different process. Like I never had a consistent writing style. Every time I do a new book, I have to like refigure out my whole new system.
Okay.
Right. So that's, I guess, it's frustrating. I should practice looking at it as interesting, but so I've found that when it does drafts, it doesn't work for me. It's just too plain. But I have used it for, you said, something like in fiction, like coming up with ideas for names. So there's some of like really kind of, I get stuck if you're going to, rather than Googling something, try to come up with a draft AI. But I'll be the first to admit I'm not a professional in using AI, and I don't have an aspiration to be. I kind of like, maybe I'll use it some more in the future. Like it's so early with AI, who knows where it's going to go, even in the next 6 months or a year. It's crazy how fast things are moving.
Yeah.
And so for me, rather than trying to master the tools, what's for me far more important is how can I connect with kind of the things I want to do, and like find my own process, my own system, whether it's nonfiction, fiction, a good partner. It's kind of like the connection to a good partner, like whether it's a book partner or connection to myself in terms of that, what am I don't say destined for, like what feels right. What do I like to do? The ideas. That's where I'm at now. Not so much the putting the stuff on paper, or even if I sit down to write, I'm using pen and paper.
Okay. Really?
Still, yeah. I go back and forth on the fiction side. On the nonfiction, it's not. I don't need that. But the fiction, I look at it much more like how can I tap into creativity and come up with things that are different, and also just practice. So it's the fiction writing towards someday a book, but is more of a place where it's very challenging and emotionally scary because uncertain. Like I don't know how to do it. I did when I was younger, but now I've forgot. So it's it's like that fear and anxiety, which comes out more. It doesn't, like, I'm not scared, but it feels more like I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So it's more of a stuckness, but that's I think more of like a fear. And like I see that, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna keep chipping at this.
Yeah.
And
how do you keep yourself motivated in that adversity?
Well, I think big picture is I know I want to do it, so I don't need to motivate the fact that I want to do this. But day to day, it's tricky. It's like, okay, we've got lots of things to do,
Oh,
things that need to be done, like taking out the trash, picking up kids, versus things I would like to do, maybe exercise. Exercise has become a need to do. And so if I need to start making, I'm going to start making more time. And again, I'm easing towards this step by step. But one thing that would work for me, does work, is when I say, look, okay, I'm going to go someplace and I'm not going to do anything except write. Or I'll either write or do nothing. Well, write or drink coffee, right? I'm not going to like be on my phone. I'm not going to do Sudoku because I fucking love Sudoku or killer Sudoku. I'm not going to talk to anyone unless someone's there helping me, but I can either do nothing or write.
so you create that restriction.
I need to do that. Yeah, that works for me. Come forcing functions. It's actually from the impressionante book. That restriction. I need a helpful restriction. At some point, I would like to think I'll be in more of a groove where I have more of a system and I know how to do it. Right now, it's hard because I don't know what I'm doing. I don't feel like I know what I'm doing. It feels so clunky. And even though I know, because I've been old enough that whether it's starting a company or starting a new sport or everything at the beginning feels clunky. Okay, this is a natural part of it. I just need to keep taking steps and not like beat myself into doing it, but just kind of what works for me, I think, rather than like jumping into a freezing lake which I probably would do that versus easing in. But now I'm like dipping my toes in over time. I'm like easing into it because this is something I want to do for years, a long time, and I don't need to rush. I find if I try to rush and like really go big on something too fast, maybe it works or doesn't, but it doesn't. I can't keep it up. So I'm just trying to keep up the step by step, embracing this. What am I going to do here? How am I going to try this today for fiction? I try to write a story or try to draw something, and it's very frustrating.
So a lot of consistency over intensity, I guess.
I keep this word determination. Like I'm determined to do it. It's not consistent. It's not disciplined. It's just like I'm gonna figure this out. I don't know. Okay, today I'm gonna try something different. It's not clicking yet, but it will.
Yeah. And you mentioned you're working on 2 books, right? Currently, the one on income, and what was the second one again?
Yeah. So income operating system is one, and eat shit and grow.
Oh, eat shit and
Yeah,
grow,
that's the thing. Now, that one could evolve. I have this whole other. It could be a different book or not. It's a different keynote I'm working on, which is really kind of this life path from my 30s, 40s, 50s, from learning how to be successful to making lots of money to now figuring out like what do I want to do next. That could be a different book. It could be, I don't know. So, but there's at least those 2 books I'm slowly but surely working on, but more would come after that. I don't know what, but something.
Yeah, you're a book person
I'm a book person,
an
yeah.
author, right?
Yeah, I like speaking. I like doing books. I don't. There's lots of things I don't like to do, or I'm not that great at. But those are 2 things that I do like to do.
All right. Well, once again, I'd like to really thank you for coming to join us at our event. It's really a pleasure meeting you personally, having this chat, and looking forward to your keynote in a couple minutes.
Talking about some of this stuff, also some sales stuff. But pleasure to be here, and good to see you again, Carlos.
Thank you very much.